Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did, so let's get started. Number 5 was Migration, making $6.2 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $87 million and a worldwide total of $175 million. So Migration is still doing pretty well for itself, you know. It surpassed the $80 million milestone and now just sits roughly $13 million away from the $100 million milestone domestically, which I think is definitely safe. Again, there are no animated movies out right now until Kung Fu Panda 4 in March. So that's plenty of time for this movie to surpass that milestone. In regards to worldwide, I do think 200 million is at play here because once again, it hasn't released in the UK or Japan yet. It doesn't do so until February. And so once it releases in those territories, I think that's definitely going to boost this movie up a bit for sure. And it's still headed on the right path. You know, it's already doubled that $72 million budget. So surpassing 200 million worldwide would be a really good thing for this movie. You know, it's still doing very well. And in regards to other Illumination films, it's about to surpass Hop both domestically and worldwide. Worldwide much sooner than domestic. I do think it's going to be a while before it surpasses Hop domestically, but on the worldwide side of things, that's sure to happen within the next couple weeks at most. And while yes, the movie isn't doing horribly, it's not doing terribly, I thought it would do a bit better. I thought the word of mouth would take off like maybe Elemental or maybe by some miracle Puss in Boots, but it seems to be playing more similar to Ninja Turtles and Trolls Band Together. You know, it's doing good, you know, especially with the budget, but given, you know, Illumination's track record, you kind of expected more to come out from this movie. And, you know, with how Puss in Boots did, you kind of expected something similar here too, in regards to these were the only animated movies released during the holiday season and weren't the only animated movies playing until the spring when new animated movies came out around the time. So you kind of thought that maybe these movies would be a lot similar, but Migration just doesn't seem to be pulling off the Puss in Boots or even Elemental legs at the moment. But yeah, otherwise this is still a pretty solid total, all things considered. But in my personal opinion, I thought this would do a bit better. I thought it would surpass a couple more milestones a bit quicker than what it is doing right now, but this is still a very solid total nonetheless. Number 4 was Anyone But You, making $7.1 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $56 million and a worldwide total of $79 million. So it seemed to have finally happened, folks. Anyone But You has finally decreased in its box office run, sadly. But in all honesty, that really doesn't mean anything because the hold was still very good. It only dropped 27% from last week. Obviously, this was due to much more stiff competition that the film had to face off this weekend, but this really doesn't matter in the long run. The movie is still doing very well. It's still maintaining its core audience and strong word of mouth. This is an exceptional hold. And again, this is the first time in its theatrical run where the movie decreased. We're in the movie's 4th weekend and this is the first time it decreased. Just imagine telling yourself this like 2 months ago that this movie would be able to accomplish this. This is one box office run that has been so surprising and so unexpected. I just love seeing how much further this movie is going, and it looks like it's going to keep going even further as 70 million domestic does seem locked at this point. It's going to have to take a really big hit in the coming weeks for it to not crack that milestone, but I think it's definitely going to. And in regards to adult comedies last year, it has officially surpassed No Hard Feelings to become the second biggest R-rated comedy of last year, only behind Cocaine Bear, which made $64 million. And given where this movie is at, I think it's safe to say that Cocaine Bear is going to get knocked down by Anyone But You, certainly. And internationally, things are looking pretty good for this movie too, so much so that it's bringing its worldwide total to nearly $80 million. And with that said, I think $100 million worldwide is in the bag, which is exceptional for a $25 million movie. And keep in mind, folks, it hasn't released in some places, like Mexico, Italy, or France yet. So only much more room to grow once it releases in those countries, which is very soon. I think Mexico is this weekend, and France and Italy are later in the month. But yeah, still, these are incredible numbers, easily the biggest holiday surprise right now. Very happy to see this movie pulling in these types of numbers. Number 3 was Wonka, making $8.4 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $178 million and its worldwide total to $509 million. So Wonka has done pretty incredible things this weekend. Obviously, the biggest one being that it surpassed the $500 million milestone worldwide. Just wow, the fact that this movie was able to accomplish such an achievement like this is very solid, to say the least. What an incredible achievement, and considering the movie only costed $125 million, this is more than what was needed for this movie to be a success, and clearly it is being very successful right now. We'll see if it can get to 600 million worldwide. I don't know if there are any other places it has left to open, but in all honesty, it's not like it needs any more money. It's already been such a huge phenomenon worldwide. But on the domestic side of things, the movie is showing some staying power. It dropped around 40% this weekend, but also it made some waves in the biggest movies of 2023 charts. It actually surpassed the entire domestic runs of both Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which I don't think anyone expected this movie to accomplish early in 2023. So once again, like with anyone but you, imagine telling yourself that early last year. Wow. And because of that, it is now the 11th biggest movie of 2023. The only things left standing in its way are Taylor Swift The Eras Tour, Sound of Freedom, and John Wick Chapter 4, and I think it's safe to say that this movie will surpass all of those movies very soon, as well as surpassing the $200 million milestone very soon. Again, it's probably going to be a slow crawl to that domestic milestone, but I don't see any reason why it doesn't. So yeah, once again, another solid weekend for Wonka. Not much more else to add here except good job. Number 2 was The Beekeeper, opening with $16 million this weekend, and including the numbers from Martin Luther King Jr. Day, it adds to a domestic total of $19 million and a worldwide total of $23 million. So I didn't talk about this movie a lot on last week's show. I just didn't have a lot of expectations for this. I wasn't sure if general audiences were gonna really turn out to see this Jason Statham action movie where he's a literal beekeeper, but I was clearly wrong. Enough people were interested in it to get it to number 2, which is quite impressive. It is the second biggest opening of the year, behind something we will get to very soon, but it was also able to top Night Swim and The Book of Clarence, which did not open in the top 5. So it at least has that going for it. I think this is definitely a decent opening, especially since there isn't much out right now, and Jason Statham's some more recent endeavors haven't done all that great. Wrath of Man, Operation Fortune, and of course Expendables. The Meg 2 was one of the bright spots, but even that didn't make nearly as much as the first one. So with this opening to as much as it did, I think is quite impressive. The marketing was very solid, and with the lack of buzz I saw from the film, it's nice to see more people want to check out and see it. I'm not sure what the budget is on this though. For some reason, I can't find an official budget reported anywhere, so that's definitely going to be hard for me to decipher if this is a box office success or not, but I'm sure they're probably satisfied with where this movie ended up this weekend. Hopefully it continues to grow. It is the only action movie out right now until Argyle in February, so hopefully the legs and word of mouth are strong. It got a B+A on CinemaScore, so maybe that'll help this movie out. Again, we're in a bit of a dry spell right now at the box office, so we'll see where the movie heads, but I think this is, once again, a decent start for The Beekeeper. And finally, let's end the video off with the #1 movie of the weekend, which was Mean Girls, opening with $28 million this weekend, and including the Martin Luther King Jr. Day numbers, it adds to a domestic total of $33 million and a worldwide total of $40 million. This is, of course, the biggest opening of the year already, topping The Beekeeper, Night Swim, and The Book of Clarence already. I don't think there were any surprises here this weekend on how this movie would do. It did pretty solid, all things considered. You know, it opened bigger than the original Mean Girls back in 2004 and is showing to have a very solid box office performance right now. The movie only costed $36 million to make, and it's already made that back worldwide, more so domestically, but still pretty solid numbers all around. It really took advantage of the slow January slot, and I think because of that, because there isn't much out right now, it'll probably benefit from that the most for sure. The problem here, though, is that audience reception has been very mixed as of late. It got a B cinema score, which is not only lower than the original Mean Girls, which got an A-, but it's also lower than the other two musicals that have released recently, Wonka and The Color Purple, which is definitely going to be cause for concern. That does make me worry about this movie's legs in the future, but then again, you know, nothing's really out for right now for this movie to compete with, apart from like the holdovers from Christmas and The Beekeeper. So we'll see where this movie ends up going from this point forward. But as far as its opening, as far as its starting point, yeah, it's off to a very solid start. It shows that audiences were much interested in seeing a new interpretation of Mean Girls. They wanted to go check this out, and the original still has that place in a lot of people's heart as such a timeless classic that they want to go see another interpretation of it. So yeah, as far as openings go, this is a very solid opening. I look forward to seeing where this movie can go, if it can exceed expectations and become a modest hit for the beginning of the year, or if it suffers because of the mixed word of mouth. It will be interesting to see which path this movie does end up going in terms of its box office performance. But yeah, as far as its opening, yeah, things are looking pretty good. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend. And normally this would be the part of the video where I discuss the upcoming new wide releases hitting theaters this weekend and seeing where I think they're going to land in the top 5, how well they're going to do. But in honesty, I'm not expecting much from this weekend. I know ISS is supposed to come out this weekend, but given the lack of marketing or buzz I'm seeing for the film, I don't think it's really gonna cut it. Maybe it just barely cracks the top 5, and I honestly think that's a best case scenario for the film, because I just don't see any promotion or ads or buzz about the film anywhere recently. So it just feels like it's just getting dumped in the January slot, unfortunately. But who knows? I was wrong about The Beekeeper. Maybe this will be another surprise. Who knows? But right now, I just have the lowest expectations for that movie. But we'll see how well this movie truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that do land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.